Well, welcome back, everyone. This is News Sources with me, James Smart, and Dennis Onsarigo.
Indeed, we are still keeping it News Sources tonight, and we are joined by yet another guest, Ramadan Rajab. Karibu sana to the show.
Asante.
Smart, what are guys saying online?
All right, so we asked on our handle KTN News, should the IEBC be disbanded and why? That is what we are asking tonight, and you'd look at those. Some people have quite engaged with us. That question, Makaharap Walter says they lost their legitimacy when they ate chicken. They need there's need to create a culture of integrity.
Charlie K.E. says IEBC commissioners failed the integrity test.
Indeed, and their credibility is compromised, and therefore Kenyans holds no trust in IEBC. That's Ogada Marinas on Twitter.
Keep your tweets coming in, but again, moving on, the church has spoken strongly against having the current IEBC conducting the next general elections. The church has warned the country is likely to plunge into chaos should the IEBC, as currently constituted, conduct the next general elections.
A close analysis of the possible scenarios, particularly around the presidential and gubernatorial contests, paints a picture of a country that is characterized by desperation and militancy, which can tear the country and counties apart, leaving in their wake wounds than we have experienced before. This country cannot afford another wave of violence or mere police intervention to restrain a disgruntled citizenry from systemic electoral malfunctions.
All right, that's where the conversation is. Girachu, should we be listening to church leaders when they give such statements, or they're only great when they tell us they've prayed for us and the cases have disappeared?
I think we should listen to them because a vast majority of this country is Christian, and church leaders hold a lot of sway. I'm sure if you watch the programs that church leaders come in on weekends, there's a lot of people listening to them. So I think we should.
Do they have a point?
I don't know whether they still have their finger on the pulse of what the country thinks. Huh? I'm hesitant to say whether they have a point because they might be jumping onto a bandwagon, but let's listen to them. Huh? Yeah, we should listen to everybody.
That is. Have a point?
I think they do. They do have a point, but pundits will ask, why now? I mean, IEBC has been around for the last 2 or 3 years and no one has spoken about it. Why is Canon Peter Karanja talking about it now? But Rajab, should we still listen to the church? Because, I mean, in subsequent elections, in past elections rather, the church has taken sides. 2007, they took sides. 2013, they openly took sides. Should we listen to them now, or are they just making noise?
Generally, people should listen to the church because in Kenya, 99% of the population is people of faith. And when you hear church leaders speak, obviously they're speaking on behalf of some following. And if you go to any church around the country, you will find at least 100 people and above. If you compare it, the crowd that comes to the church and the crowd goes to the political rallies is different. So if you try to ignore the church and the church is just talking about ideas or issues people are bringing to them, you will be trying to commit suicide.
Geracho, should the church be the voice of reason? I mean, CORD has spoken, LSK has spoken. Should the church be the reason, the voice of reason?
Yeah, it should be. But what I'd like to hear more from them, now that everyone has gotten onto the bandwagon of let's dismiss it, let us hear how shall we build another one, how shall we make it credible, and how shall we develop the trust for it, such that when it announces the results next year, we don't have, same issue arising every 4 or 5 years. You realize before every other election, someone wants the referee to go away, but we need now a blueprint on what kind of referee we need that we need to chase away every so often.
Smart, I don't know. Are we likely to have violence in 2017 if something is not done with this IEBC? Or it's just the church sounding the alarm bells for God's sake, for people to start praying?
Or maybe possibly nothing. I think that school of thought could be, quite dangerous. To imagine that, well, we'll have another elections where we've clearly said that we do not trust the referee. All of us are saying, the perception of this body is something of a worry for everyone. And to go into an election with the current situation, with the current, political divide, I think from where I sit, the voting patterns from 2013 haven't substantially changed. I haven't seen a shift in a way, in both sides, all right? So we expect to be more of the same in 2013. And truth is, those are close elections. 5.7 million versus 6.4, 6.3. Yeah, a difference of 800,000, I think. So with that in mind, that we could have very closely contested elections. You want someone who's going to stand there and say, well, this is it, this person has won. And for me, I think if I were to argue on the side of Jubilee and the side of the president, part of the problem that they have in the last 3 years is that their credibility has taken a hit because people did not trust so much that result that put them in office. And that's a big problem. It's something that has been used expertly by the opposition. So I want, if I were him, to win an election in 2017 with a poll, with a body that says you are the president and you're trusted, and it doesn't. You don't have to be president for 5 years with credibility issues. I would argue.
Ramadan, these are legitimacy issues. I mean, you need legitimacy for you to govern a country. Should we have this body taken care of so that we avoid what Smart is talking about in post-2017?
Ideally, if you look at violence across Africa, most violence, they're triggered by elections. You look at Burundi, you look at what's happened in Uganda in 1980 when Museveni went to the bush. It's all about elections. When the electoral management is poor, you expect people to contest an election. And what we're dealing now is a referee who is seen biased, who has lost neutrality. So he cannot hide under the refuge of law. He should just pack and leave so as we have fresh people come in. If you look at the credibility of Isaac, the alleged accomplices have been jailed. He still have chicken hanging on his head. We still have this body which has not even cleared on what happened during the 2013 election. We have issues that have been coming out from the by-elections that just have ended, even the registration of voters. So how do you expect these people to even announce the results that will be accepted across board? Because that will be an issue, and if there is contest on the results of election, and people won't, I doubt if people will go to the Supreme Court this time around. They might settle out scores on the streets. So that's the danger of us going with a SAC-led team to the general elections come 2017.
Gerachu, getting rid of the commissioners, 9 of them, have we in a way solved the structural weaknesses that IEBC has?
No, I don't think we have. Because we look at the commissioners and think they are the IEBC, and they are not.
There's a secretariat behind it.
Yeah, there's a secretariat behind it. Those are the guys who run the show.
Yeah.
And we can, we can get Hassan out of office today. But how do we get rid of this issue forever? How do we create a body that everybody can trust? I think that's the real question here. And probably now the people who should start coming up with ideas tomorrow, get off the bandwagon of let them go, start telling us what do we do now? How do we build an institution that we can trust and that everybody can trust? That is, if you are not failing to trust the current one for the sake of it, for the sake of politics, what they call siasa in parliament.
Yeah. So the first conversation will be, well, have we agreed that we're taking these guys off? Have we agreed substantially that we can go home? Well, having said that, the conversation largely has been about this man, Raila Odinga. They say has been instrumental in, well, deciding the composition of the electoral body in the past 2 elections. 2013, he was in government and helped set up the current IEBC. So is Raila shifting the goalpost until he scores? Do you feel that, it has to be Raila? It just has to be about him?
I think I'm trying to be really nice here. Okay. I think
you can be nasty if you want.
I think the thing to do now in this next election is, and I like what the Deputy President said on Sunday, that the IEBC is just a referee okay, get rid of the current one and let us have a participatory process with Raila right in the middle of it, so that we can have an election with an institution that he will trust at least for the next election.
All right,
I hope I'm safe.
you're trying to be safe.
I think
is it just about this man?
I think when you're talking about elections, you don't just stick to the formal processes and try to ignore players in this. A big player in the 2017 general election and the 2013 general election, Raila was among the big players there. So you can't ignore him. When he raises issues, you should listen. Given the fact that even the IEBC chairman, Isaac, he once pronounced himself casting prejudices against this one of the competitors' main elections, makes it also look, he's biased already. And that's not how referees should act. Even if you have your own, yes, they should be neutral. Even sometimes pretend to be neutral, not just to declare it openly the way he did. So Raila has issues and has valid concerns about the IBC. He can't face, or he can't be there to be at least, I don't know how to put it.
Does this man Raila Odinga leave his home and vote for himself 5.7 million times?
Up until last week, I don't think the Kenyan state realized that this is not about Raila Odinga anymore. Because when the church came in and started talking about IEBC, I think there are alarm bells out there. LSK has spoken again today. And some other quarters again, even Jubilee has spoken about, even Jubilee legislators have spoken about this IEBC. Remember how they conducted, in their view, the Malindi by-election. They had issues with IEBC. So I don't think Raila Odinga wakes up one day and goes to 34,000 polling stations across the country and votes for himself 5.3 million times. Or Uhuru Kenyatta goes to the same polling stations and votes for himself 6.2 million times. People do. So people, his supporters, are telling him, you need to ask questions. And as you said, in your earlier discussion, you said the voting patterns are not shifted as much, to a large extent. So you have an individual here who seems to be speaking for half of this country. Another individual is supposed to be supporting this electoral body, and again, on behalf of slightly half of this country. So where does that place us? I don't think it's about Raila Odinga anymore. If the church has been coached by Raila Odinga to speak about this, then yes. If LSK has been pushed by Raila Odinga to speak about this, yes. But that notion we need to get over that notion that indeed this is a Raila Odinga thing. Because if institutions fail, then they don't favor me. I don't know what your take is, Smart. You ask me this. I need to ask you this.
I think I feel the same. I think that at some point in this country, you have to be honest about the issues that we have and the leaders. All right, you cannot wake up one day and say and I think the worst thing that happened in our constitution in the last 2013 is that we failed to recognize opposition leaders and have offices and put in places where they could be recognized constitutionally. Yeah. I think that's a problem. Well, we in our system, when Girachu has to contest that, I'll give you the opportunity to contest that. Yeah. But the problem is that the fact that Raila Odinga or Kalonzo Musyoka, and you've seen, or all Jubilee, MPs, when they want to say very random thing, they say you're a normal Kenyan. You can walk around and you do not have to get this country to stop because you have no offices, that sort of thing. I think part of the problem is that we have not created a system whereby we can all have honest, opposite discussions. All right, and Girachu can contest honestly. This is a platform that I give you.
No, I was contesting your...
Please go ahead.
I was contesting your assertion that we don't take care of the opposition. But there are offices for them. For the first time in the Constitution, there is a minority leader in the National Assembly, a minority leader in the Senate. I think the thing we need to get away from is the politics based on personalities rather than parties as institutions. Because if you say that, shall we then create offices for those who lose in county elections, for those who have lost in gubernatorial positions? I think in more developed democracies, once you lose a presidential election, you sit out for 5 years. If you want to go another time, you can do that. But I don't think it's fair to the country that you love, that once you lose a presidential election, you become a perpetual agitator for
Rajab,
for whatever.
In 10 seconds.
I think what Kenyans don't appreciate is the role of opposition. they speak to public policy that government brings there. So it's an idea of marketplace of ideas. So you can't have only one voice from government. So we need someone who will stand up and say this taxation regime is wrong. And that's what exactly the opposition leader is doing.
Gentlemen, we need to move on. Former First Lady Lucy Kibaki is dead. The First Lady had a good side, and at times she had a bad side. Just take a look.
Miaka ya mtu ya rais ni 10. Basi yeye angali kijana. Yule hataki rais amalize hiyo yake 10. Tafadhali atatafuta nchi nyingine. Mimi nawaalika waje siku moja tukutane Uhuru Park. Wasimame hapo waseme siasa yao na mimi niseme yangu.
Rajab, what do you remember most about the First Lady?
The things I remember about her are not those nice things about what people will speak about. Today we are arguing about morality issues, and we are saying some people lie when someone dies. So ideally, I can remember those issues when she stormed the standard group, the nation media at that time. I can remember when she really was on the toes of the late Professor George Saitoti. And also when she dragged the president to the podium to really claim or proclaim that he has only one wife, was some things which were too belittling. A president is a head of state. So being dragged around on the podium, it was a nice thing for me.
Girachu, her good side, bad side, former First Lady Lucy Kibaki.
I didn't get to interact with her, or
I'm not sure that would have been a nice thing. But
no, I didn't get to live at a time when she was, very much in the public, the way the First Lady we have currently is. But I think we shouldn't take too seriously the fact that, she had the president say that he only has one wife or such things, because that's how life is. I mean, that's the spice of life. She's a memorable person for that. I'm sure if she was like the First Lady we didn't know, Lena Moi, who, we literally knew nothing about, we wouldn't have something interesting to discuss.
Smart, James.
Yeah.
I don't know. I should ask about you before, because I generally think it's a conflicting view that I have. We have a society that wants to say all the great things when people have gone, and it's possibly something that is African that we do. That it's nice to say, well, he was a good man. He took care of all his children and that sort of thing. While clearly, he was a guy who left his family and left the village. Having said that, I think the First Lady, for us, and I think for us in the media, she offers a kind of an in into Kibaki's presidency, I think. All right, she offers that. She gives us a glimpse of the power behind power, a proper one, because she was the first Lady that we could see and could interact and see when she was not happy, when she's happy and that sort of thing. I don't know about you, Dennis.
No, I covered her when she came in Invading Nation, I think, in 2005. I was the cameraman. I was in that newsroom, and she gave us a run for money that night. So
terrorized the newsroom.
Yeah, she terrorized it, I think, for like an hour or so. Smart.
All right, so we asked you, should the IEBC be disbanded, and why? 61% of you think IEBC should be disbanded, and 39% of you think absolutely not. Thank you very much for interacting with us on News Sources. We're always happy to hear your thoughts and opinion. John Girashu, please come again and again.
I'll try.
Rajab, kuja tena.
Asante.
That's all.